Hello, everyone, both who are joining me today, and then also who might be watching the replay. I'm excited about this particular lesson. I don't know that I've ever come on here and been like, man, I am just dreading this lesson. So I'm just excited in general. If I'm talking about it, I'm pretty excited about it. But today, I think I mistitled this a little bit. What it means to be a CEO is kind of what I was thinking, but it has evolved as I created the lesson for this. And it's much more a playbook on how to embody the CEO or to don the crown. If you guys have been around here for any amount of time, you know that I like to utilize actual crowns. I didn't bring one over into my little corner to help get us in the CEO state of mind. There is very few people who are drawn to the mobile bar industry with extensive backgrounds in entrepreneurship and leadership. And so, what we oftentimes find is people are drawn to the mobile bar space because they want to be their boss, their own boss for like the first time. And they kind of come into entrepreneurship with a little bit of an entrepreneurial employee mindset. Um, and so today I'm going to talk about what is an entrepreneurial employee mindset and how do we make that shift from being an employee to a CEO of your own company. But first, I want to give a shout out to the watering hole. As you guys know, I've been on a merch buying spree from other mobile bars. Look at how cute this is. So cute. So cute and so comfortable. So shout out to the watering hole. For those of you who are joining us that might be new to the Mobile Bev Pros space, I'm Sarah Murphy. I own Mobile Bev Pros. I'm a business coach and strategist, and I like to show up and just teach. And so once a week, I do that. And so I'm going to teach a little bit of a lesson, and then afterwards, it can be open Q&A. So it doesn't matter if you have a bar, a coffee cart, you sell pretzels at events. I can help with business questions. And it can be about the lesson too. So stick around. We're going to learn about that transition from being an employee to being a CEO. And I want to start by talking about entrepreneurial employee. So first-time entrepreneurs, especially if they're at an age where they can actually bankroll a mobile bar startup. We have spent our entire lives going through an education system and then being employees for other people. And so we take direction from others really well, usually by this point. And then we get into this space where we want to be our own boss and start our own business. And we do. And then we're like, well, who's going to tell me what to do? Right. And for a little while, that's fine. But we start doing our business or working our business the same way we worked everyone else's business, because that's what we learned. It's the patterns that we built. So maybe if you keep a 9 to 5, but then you do events on the weekend, and before you know it, you're working 7 days. But then also when it comes to making large decisions, strategic decisions, forward thinking decisions, we sometimes struggle and we get stuck working in our business instead of on our business. And now I work with hundreds of mobile bar owners, and it's a pattern that I see over and over and over again. So this isn't something that's just like one person. It's very, very common for people to struggle with this transition. And so in today's lesson, what I want to talk about is the stages or the steps that I have seen best utilized or embodied to get you from one end to the next. Okay, let me get my notes up here. Boom, boom. So the first step in donning the CEO crown, I think, is understanding why it's important to don the CEO crown. Number one, you are running your own business. You are running your own empire. And if you aren't willing to take full ownership of that and be the one to actually make the hard decisions and step outside of the slinging of the drinks and start looking to see things like, am I profitable, and what is our growth strategy, and what levers can I pull during seasons when we might have low sales, right? These are the things that you cannot think about or strategize when you're in the midst of slinging drinks, executing events, hauling around ice, right? And as you get busier and as you grow, you're going to have team members, right? And so they're going to need onboarding and training. They're going to need to know what the culture is for the company, right? So all of these things are CEO tasks. And it's oftentimes really hard for people to think ahead enough to do these things because they're working in their business. So where do we start? How do we go from being an entrepreneurial employee that's just working my business to actually showing up as the CEO so that I can grow this business big enough that I don't have to be working on my events? I can even take a vacation and know that everything is doing well and that I have huge amounts of profit, right? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to um, don the crown in a way that is big. Okay. One of the things that I see oftentimes with the people at the stage is they're a little scared to take up space. They're a little scared to be promoting their business super loudly. There's a little bit of hesitancy around, well, they might not need me. Maybe I'm too expensive. I don't want to continue to follow. We've talked about this a little bit in the past when I talk about visibility strategy, but also there are those that are a little bit scared to take a stand even within their own business. So maybe they have a bartender who's got a big opinion about something, and they don't come from the bar industry. Believe it or not, 50% of all mobile bar owners didn't come from the mobile bar space or the bartending space or even the restaurant space. And so they get a bartender in here and the bartender has a real big opinion about something. Well, they may not feel the confidence to actually say, that's cute. I appreciate the fact that that you think it should go that way, but this is my company. Right. And so they're afraid to be big. They're afraid to take up space. They're afraid to be the CEO. I bet you, and I've asked entire rooms, how many people, mobile bar owners, feel comfortable calling themselves CEO? Very few hands go up, because the CEO feels big and like, you need to work for 30 years to take that title. My invitation is to take that title today, because you're going to show up differently in your business from the seat of the CEO than you will from just the business owner, or I'm an entrepreneur. You can also be those things, but showing up with authority and power in your business has a completely different vibe. So the first thing, when donning the CEO crown, is to basically like broaden those shoulders, take up space, and recognize you're the boss. You're the big boss. And that doesn't have to be like an egoic thing. It just has to mean like, I trust myself to make hard decisions. I trust myself to take risks and deal with whatever the consequences are. I trust myself that I've created a business that has and brings value to other people, and I am willing to go out there and network and talk about it. Not as like, I see this sometimes where people attach the value of their mobile bar to their rig. And so they're like, well, the rig is the business. You are the business. You are the CEO. Okay. Like, I don't want you hiding behind your rig as the business. You are the business. You are the CEO. Okay. So step one, take up a little space, don your CEO crown, recognize that you are the boss. And this is, you get to create this, this empire and how people function within it. The second step in donning your CEO crown is establishing organization and accountability. Now, this is where we create the framework from where people are actually going to thrive and succeed. If you've ever worked for a small time entrepreneur and like it's all wishy-washy, there are like no necessary boundaries. You're not even sure how to succeed there because it's like, okay, what is the policy on this? Or how do I do this? And the answer is like, oh, well, it kind of changes every time. Or like, what do you think you should do? Right. That creates lack of safety. If people don't know how to show up and don't know how to succeed within your business, and that could be employees or customers, then people are going to have a hard time succeeding within your structure. So number two is to create and establish organization and systems of accountability. Set expectations, hold people accountable. What does it look like if one of your bartenders doesn't do the thing that you ask them to do? What does it look like if someone does above and beyond and is really amazing? Like, what does that look like? How do you treat that? What's your mission, vision, values? Which we do this really early on in all of my programs, because that's how you hire. You hire people based on what your mission, your vision, and your values are. It's also how people resonate with your brand. So it's how customers can see you and recognize themselves in you. So we want to create expectations and accountability. We want to create a system for safety and trust. So if you have someone who is doing a bad job and you need to give them constructive criticism, Do they feel safe in that, right? Do you have open dialogue? Is there a way they can give you feedback as well as you give them feedback? All of this is really important when developing a culture. And now we're getting into something that's a little bit more akin to leadership. And so if you've never been a manager, never been a leader, these things are going to feel hard and out of alignment with the way that you usually operate. But that doesn't mean that you get to skip them. So the other thing that we need to do during this stage is ensure continuity and stability. So we're documenting as we go. We're creating SOPs and then updating SOPs as things change. There's a place where people can go to get the information they need. There's an employee handbook. There is an onboarding sequence. So like, what does it look like to interview and hire and onboard someone? What does it look like when someone needs to request time off or not be available for certain shifts? All of this happens during this third phase. The next phase is where we defend the kingdom, if we're going to use the kind of the crown terminology. This is where we put into process or place protections. So this is where we make sure that we have all the necessary insurances. Now, a lot of times people will get insurance when they first start because they need that. That's totally fine. But at this stage, we really need to make sure, are we really covered? Do we have all the right insurances? Or all of our employees covered, right? Because if you're using 1099s in most states and with most insurance carriers, 1099 bartenders are not going to be covered under your liquor liability or your general liability. And when you're first getting started, you don't really have the capital like to worry about these things. But as we start owning more of this kingdom, we need to start paying better attention. Are your contracts short? Or did you just pull it off Honeybook or from a Facebook group that someone donated like their particular contract? Is it right for your state? Does it have all of the clauses that you want or that you need for what you do, right? We also want to start thinking in this stage how you navigate certain things like market fluctuations. Earlier in the year, maybe it was the end of last year, I did an entire webinar on mobile bars during recessions. You got to be thinking about those things because, again, we're working on our business, not in our business. So what happens if interest rates rise? What happens if a recession comes around? What happens if there's terrible weather or a pandemic? How does your business operate? What are the levers that you're going to pull to ensure business continuity if things like that come up? The other thing that during the same phase that we want to be looking at is responding to societal pressures, new competitors in the market, additional revenue streams so that you have more than just one product or service, a lot of different things that you maybe wouldn't be focused on if you were just busy executing all the time. The next phase, and this one's the hard one for most mobile bar owners. I call this building the inner circle. There is no successful kingdom in the world wherein you don't have a court, okay? And that means a team of people that you can entrust to do the work either in your absence, meaning you're not there at all, or to complement your skill set. And if I had just a nickel for every time I heard a mobile bar owner say, I have control issues or I'm a control freak, raise your hand if that's you. I want to see you in the little comment section. Then this is going to potentially be a really sticky, difficult part for you. But it has to happen. You have to build an inner circle. You have to stop identifying as the control freak, because if you do identify as the control freak, then you are never going to grow your business larger than you can handle by yourself. So your business will only ever be as big as you. And I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think this business is easy enough and the margins are big enough to really have this be worthwhile if it's just you and you're just always burning the midnight oil at both ends, right? So we have to be willing to let go of a little bit of control. We then need to figure out where our zone of genius is. What are the high dollar items or tasks or pieces of the business that you're best suited for. They light you up, you're really good at it, and it drives revenue to the business. And what is everything else, right? If it doesn't fit those three things, it should either be automated, eliminated, or delegated. All right. And that's part of phase 5. Phase 6 of becoming CEO is learning to lead with mission, vision, and values. So you defined your mission, vision, values. Always touch back on your, my New York came out there for a second. Always touch back on your mission, vision, values every year to make sure that you're still in alignment with that. Then you align all of your decisions that you're making with your mission, vision, and value. Your hiring decisions, your product decisions, your service decisions should align with your mission, vision, and value. And then communicating it regularly with your employees, put it on your website so your clients know what your mission, vision, values are. That's it's an important part of becoming the CEO, is really embodying why are you doing what you're doing? How do you do what you're doing? And what is the purpose of you doing what you're doing? Then we move on to the next phase, which is, by this point, we have a team. We've delegated everything that isn't adding the most amount of value to your business, driving sales. You're in your zone of genius by this point. And so now we get to drive progress and growth. And we're going to be able to drive progress and growth to a point that's even larger than what you can do alone, because we now have people, right people on the right seats on the bus. I believe that's Good to Great by Jim Collins. I might be butchering that. He talks about the right people on the right seat and the right bus. So we're going to be utilizing profits from the business to reinvest in development and growth. So anybody who's ever tried to grow their business knows that it is hungry. So if you're growing your business, and there's a couple different phases of business, the growth phase is cash hungry. It's going to take a whole lot of your cash flow. It's going to be expensive to grow. And that is, hopefully, if you've done your business and all your numbers correctly, you're using profits to build the business. You are also, again, continuing to align that with your mission, vision, values, and you're creating a culture of progress and innovation. Otherwise, you're going to stall out, right? And then we go into the sustaining success portion of being a CEO. And that is learning to balance short-term gains with long-term sustainability, planning for succession and leadership transitions. This is important, right? Are you going to do this forever? Are you going to be lugging around ice forever? Probably not. So whether it's hiring a GM to replace you and you just become an owner, or whether it's selling the business and getting all the operations ready to kind of sell so that you can then take that value from the business that you've built to do whatever is next. That's all part of that last sustaining success phase. Because here's the thing. When you're a CEO, the business doesn't require you to operate. It's yours, and you get all the financial benefits of it and any egoic benefits of owning a business, but you're not attached to it. So you could sell it, you could have someone else run it with confidence because you've done all the work to get here. And that's it. Those are the 8 phases of donning the CEO crown. And I'd love if you're sticking around, if you would tell me kind of where you think your next phase is from what I shared here. That would be fun for me to see. But also, that's the end of the lesson. So it opens up for general Q&A. If anyone has any general questions, either about what I talked about or business questions in general. Take a drink. Man, when I get excited about something, I really go. Looks like we have people from both YouTube and Facebook. While I wait for questions, I will let everyone know that we do have our Achieve and Exceed programs open for registration. We open once a quarter, for every new quarter. So if you're interested in getting a year's worth of support from me and my co-coach Dawn, accountability, structure, gosh, there's so many good things in there. Let us know. And we just had our pod meeting today, which are always so powerful. Everyone walks away just feeling super, super yummy. Jordan asks, do you recommend 1099? If so, how do you find out if insurance covers it? I don't recommend 1099, Jordan. I don't for a number of reasons. The main one being that it's just, I mean, a lot of people do 1099s, but what we know to be true over the past couple of years is that the state governments and the federal government are not um, considering bartenders under the definition of what a contractor is and should be. And as a result, we're seeing mobile bars get fined, sometimes a lot of money. I've seen fines upwards of 30 grand or more for 1099ing bartenders instead of W-2ing them. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means I can't recommend it. Aw, thanks, Simeon. Thanks for tuning in. Simeon is a member of our Exceed program. He has been with us for 3 months now. Bi-weekly lessons, weekly Q&As, accountability. We do weekly check-ins, check-outs. And tomorrow we have our quarterly strategy meeting so that we can plan the goals for the next 12 weeks. So looking forward to that. Boel says, my next step is to learn my new programs, eCinch Dubsado, and no longer do this as a hobby. Yes, I love that. So implementing technology in your business is what we refer to as economies of scale. And some people like to come right out the gate with all sorts of systems and technology, and that can be helpful to help in scaling faster. Some people wait until they're a little bit more established to implement technology and create a little bit more capacity within their business. There's no right or wrong way to do that. And I'm a big fan of technology, probably too much. Sometimes I need to remind myself that it's okay to do things without technology first to actually learn what it is that I want done. So I love that you're using eCinch and Dubsado. Jessica asks, I'm in the dreamer stage. What would be your advice on someone that doesn't have experience in bartending and owning their business? Or do you recommend taking a mixology class? I love this question. Jessica, thank you so much for this question. The first thing that I would say is that the most successful mobile bar owners that I know did not come from the bartending space and actually have zero understanding of much other than how to pour beer and wine. And here's why. Because people who get into this industry that are bartenders and that have the knowledge and the expertise to do the actual cocktail component find themselves stuck in the doing of the work. If you can hear my dogs, I'm sorry about that. Whereas people who don't come in with any technical knowledge of how to bartend, they then get to hire out that part of the business and they get to focus on other parts of the business. And here, I want everybody, all the peoples that are on right now and maybe listen later, I want you to hear me when I say this. The bartending component of what we do is the easiest part of what we do and should be the part that we outsource first because it is the least expensive for us to hire a bartender and it is the lowest skilled position. I spent a decade behind the bar. So like, I'm not offended by me saying this. Bartending is not rocket science. And especially event bartending, you can set bartenders up for huge amounts of success by pre-batching or creating recipes, and then it's beer and wine. And so if you could outsource anything in your business or delegate anything, it would be the bartending. So if you come into this business with no bartending knowledge, cool, awesome, hire a bartender, have them create your recipes, or just we have the cocktail book Drinking In. It's on the website. It's 50 recipes that were contributed by other mobile bar owners that were specifically contributed because they're great event cocktails. So yes, if you don't have mobile bar or even bartending experience, you can take a mixology class. It certainly doesn't hurt to be able to speak the language. I wouldn't necessarily feel like you have to take an in-person one. Above the Bar has an awesome mixology class online. It talks about the science and, the citrus versus the sugar, all the chemistry of all of it. And it's a super solid course for understanding kind of cocktails. But I wouldn't feel the need to learn how to bartend personally. Brienne says she's self-taught. Yeah, I love that. Rich Girl says we purchased our first rig. However, I'm running into difficulty finding a contractor. Am I looking for the correct professional? Help. Okay. I have, those of you who don't know, I came to the mobile bar space through the tiny house space. So I was one of the early adopters to tiny houses. We got our first tiny house back in 2013. Basically anything on wheels after that, what became an obsession of mine. And we saw the same situation in the tiny house realm where a lot of contractors would get involved because they can build houses. Certainly they can build something on wheels. It is not the same. And I have hired multiple contractors, master woodworkers to work on my rigs. And every single time I regretted it because they didn't understand the nuances of building something mobile, of building something that's wet and sticky all the time because the inside of a bar just is. Building something that is exposed to the elements and not inside, right? When someone builds counters and cabinetry in a house, it's in a house. Whereas if you build them in a camper or in a horse trailer, not only is it going down the road at 70 miles an hour, I mean, ideally not, but I know how some of y'all drive. But it's also being exposed to the weather as it gets hot and expands and it cold. It gets, it's not temperature regulated. So I don't think general contractors or contractors are good choices. I think that there are some people that are better suited to that sort of thing than others. We only recommend one person Bob the Builder, and he does consulting too. So while he only does like 2, maybe 3 builds a year, because it's like he's retired and it's just kind of a hobby for he's a teacher at heart, and he does consulting. He can actually probably give you a good idea of what to look for someone to build out your rig. I try and stay out of it while I was intimately involved with kind of a build process right before COVID and learned a ton. It's not my zone of genius. Business is my zone of genius. And so I try not to answer too many specific questions about actual builds, but I will, in the comments after this of the live, I will drop Bob's information, and that way you can reach out to him. He's super awesome. He's been a teacher for camp, our annual conference for a couple of years, and he's done a podcast for us if you listen to the podcast, and he has done a webinar in the past too. He's great. Oh my goodness, you saw me on the tiny house show, Boel? That's hilarious. Oh my God. I always wonder, someone was pointing at me the other day and I was like, I wonder if they saw me on that tiny house show. No, she just thought it was really cool that the color of my hair, which is like kind of greenish, bluish right now, matched my dress. But yeah. Yep, I was on an episode of a tiny house show about a decade ago. So funny. Yeah, awesome. So if you just reach out to Bob, I think the information is in that podcast. He's so good. Love him. Awesome. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them. I am going to hop off right at 2:30. My dog is down there ringing the potty bell, so I got to let him out. But if you guys are loving these, be sure to let me know. Like the video. We are potentially going to stop doing these weekly and do them monthly instead. And also, if you are looking for someone to support you with wherever you are in your mobile bar business, and that literally means whether you're making no money yet or you're making $500,000 yet already, we do have coaching and programs, group coaching programs or one-on-one coaching for you. And if you're not really ready for coaching, the Mobile Bar Academy is amazing. It has a ton of resources, and people have built 6-figure businesses just with the Academy resources. And so be sure to check out all of those things. It is what enables me to show up and do these free education as well as the podcasts and all of that. And so help yourself by investing in your business and your development with our paid programs as well. All right, you got one more minute to drop another question in there. This is so fun. I do enjoy doing these. I also love that I can see everyone's name this week. The last couple of weeks, it's just been like Facebook user, but today I can see everyone's names. All right, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up. We'll do this again next week, and let us know if we can support you further.